Hello and welcome to another video about international input methods, and in today's episode we are going to be discussing how to set up FCITX when you need to use a European layout in which you don't have like the classical QWERTY layout, but maybe your Z and Y keys are exchanged or there are other variations. Maybe some people use the Dvorak layout, etc. But you want to use it together with an Asian input method, just like the Korean one. So let's take a look at how I managed to set it up. In previous episode, I talked about how to install FCITX, and I took a look at this configuration window, but I did not come up with the final solution for my setup, in which I need the Hungarian and the Korean Hangul input. So you can see that my final setup is that I have two groups, and group 1 contains a keyboard with the English layout and the Hangul layout, and I have group 2 which only has the Hungarian standard layout, which is the keyboard I am used to. And so if you are used to typing on a non-QWERTY layout, then you might want to keep that up for your Latin text input, while you have to go back to the QWERTY layout when you want to type on in the Asian one. And I will show you why that is the case in a minute. I have all my global options that I only have a few of the keyboard shortcuts set up, so you can see that I don't have a trigger input method, I don't have a switch between current and next input methods. I check this skip first input method while enumerating, so this will ignore this English layout in group 1. And the only thing I use is the control space keyboards or control space keys, rather, to enumerate the input method group. So this means that this control space I use to switch between group 1 and 2. And if I come here to my top, you can see here, this is my icon up there, and if I start typing in Korean now and I press my control and the space keys, you can see that it switched to group 2, which I can type the Hungarian keys, and if I switch to group 1 with the control space combination, you can see that now I'm back to Korean, and I can use my F9 key to type in the Hanja, the Chinese Korean characters, for example. So this is how my setup currently works, and I want you to see why I did this. So now that I remember all this, we will just remove group number 2, and we will remove the English here. And what if I just set it up to, oh, no, I cannot type in, no, I can still, because I did not apply my changes, right? No, it seems like already deleted the group, and that doesn't let me use. So I have the Korean and the Hungarian one in group 1, and we have, just let's uncheck this. This is unchecked in the default setting. Let me remove this one, and I will just use the control space. No, let's just use the control space to enumerate the input method, and let's just apply all the changes. And here, so system layout is set to Hungarian. Now if I start typing in Hungarian, you can see that my keyboard is the QWERTZ layout, and I can type all these weird letters in Hungarian. But when I switch to Korean, you can see that I can still, type in Korean, but there is a problem, that this is not the character that the Y letter or this key should be doing. This is what the Y key should be doing, but the Y key should be here in Korean setup. So you can see that these two characters have been switched around. So these are the vowels, and this last one, this one also should be a vowel here, and these are down there are consonants, and this last one should also be a consonant over there. So you can see that Korean layout and all your other Asian layouts will be affected if you just use it like this. And well, how can we solve this? The solution is, of course, trying to select the system keyboard layout. So let's just say that I want to use the English layout, because that is like the US English layout, because that is like the proper QWERTZ, or not the QWERTZ, the QWERTY layout, and maybe you can pick it up from this very small image that this is the English layout is QWERTY, and once I press OK, and yes, it will just add the English layout there, but I don't want to use the English layout. So now if I go back to my text editor here, let me just go here and apply the changes. If I go back to my text editor, what language I am in, yeah, this is Hungarian, and then I press my control space, I go to Korean, and then I press my control space, and now I'm in the English layout, and I don't want to use the English for anything, because even if I type in English, I want to use the Hungarian layout. So one of the solutions that I was first thinking is that, well, we can just skip the first input method while enumerating, which is nice. It seems nice because we just skip the English one. And if we go back to the text editor here, and now I'm in the Hungarian mode, and I switch to Korean, and then I switch to Hungarian again. So this, okay, so this, until this point, this is nice, but is my Korean right? Yes, so now all my vowels are at the right place. So this is the last vowel, T as a consonant. So Korean keyboard, you have on the left side, you have consonants. So this also should be the consonant. Right side has the vowels. Anyways, you can see that now it is nice. It does what I want it to do, but in still some cases, you can have some issues. And that issue is that if I want to use, like, let me just type something, let's just type something in like Hungarian keyboard, and I want to use my undo shortcuts, which is Control and Z, and it's not working. Why? Because I should press Control Y? Yeah, because you see that even though I'm in Hungarian mode, I set up my system layout here. System layout is set to English, which means that whenever I want to use shortcuts, this will be the Z key, and this will be the letter Y, which, you know, depends on what you got used to. I got used to the Hungarian layout, and in the Hungarian layout, I press this key combination, Control, and this key to do the undo operation, not this one. So if I have to just get used to this, well, this should be possible, but maybe you don't want to do that. And this is where the groups come handy. So I can just add another group, and my group 2, I only add the Hungarian keyboard here, and I use my system keyboard layout as Hungarian also. QWERTZ, great, and then just apply these changes here and go back to group 1 and remove the Hungarian from here. And here my system layout is English, and we have Hangul, and now we are skipping the first input method while enumerating, and we remove this setup here, and also we just enumerate input method group. So Control space, let's apply these changes, and behavior is active by default because all our settings is basically we should always be using FCITX, never use your system without FCITX. So that's why we toggle this active by default. We also don't have like a input method switch on, switch off. We always want to use the FCITX for our input method. So now that I applied my changes, let me just go back here. Let's see, I am in Korean mode, and I can press Control space. Now I switched to group 2, which is the Hungarian setting. And now if I press the Control Z when I'm in the Hungarian setting, then it will work as expected. Well, of course, if I switch to the Korean setting, then Control Z won't work. It will be like because now I am in the English layout for the Latin characters, my shortcuts will be messed up. But this is kind of not that big issue for me because and now I managed to hit my stand where my camera is. Anyways, so this is not that big of an issue for me because most of the time I type in the Latin characters, for which I use the Hungarian input method, and only sometimes I need to type in Korean, and in general that case I don't really have to type like essays in which this should be an issue. But even, you know, in that case I guess I will just have to, you know, type in my Korean essay here, and I just press Ctrl Z, nothing happens, and then I just realize, oh, I have to press the other one. And this will not be that confusing, I would think, or at least, you know. This is how FCITX works. This is not how the other input method I previously used, the UIM, worked. UIM worked perfectly and remapped these keys that are important for the Korean characters, but did not change the behavior of the keyboard in any other way. So I guess that was like a little more convenient solution than FCITX. So maybe in the next video I will take a look at another possible input method, such as the UIM, and we will compare that to FCITX, and then everyone can decide whether they want to use one or the other. So this one is specifically set up if your native language and the native typing method is something that is not the QWERTY setup, and your Asian input method is the secondary one. So I have no idea how typing in passwords would work if you are in a Korean setup, because I think in Windows, if you just go in a password field and type in anything, even though if you don't switch to the Latin character input, the password field will automatically translate it to Latin characters, so you are not actually inputting Hangul into your password fields, and I have no idea how FCITX would solve that. So, but probably if you are like a Korean native speaker, you are not watching an English speaking tutorial on how these things work. So I guess, yeah, this is the end of my video, and see you next time. Bye bye.